Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Okay. We are live. Um, this is the Colts Saturday show. You are joining me, UK Colts fans,
Hello, can you hear me?
and
Yeah, can you hear me?
yep. Okay. Got to mute my other channel there. Good start. And you are joining me, UK Colts fans, and you are joining one of the best brains in the game. This guy breaks down analysis for multiple people all on the line. Hi, Octane. How's it going?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Don't want to get too political, but is the election going good in your eyes?
Um, it's going pretty well for how I figured it would.
Yeah, that's good. That's what
Um,
we like to hear. Let's go big there. That's better. Right, today's show, and I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor again, Northern Summit Clothing. Check them out. Got my t-shirt on today. Trust me, this guy isn't paying me to wear this stuff. I just enjoy the clothing. Um, Today's show, I want to talk about the next couple of games for the Colts because there's some big ones coming up. We've got a new section called Who's Hot, Who's Not. High Octane's going to go more into that. And we're just going to have general chit chat. Any questions? Let's get them out there. Um, Before we get right into it, did you see the roster moves? They literally came live a couple of minutes ago. Did you see any?
did not.
Did not. Right. So I'll just get it up here. No massive ones, but Matthew Adams, linebacker, has been elevated, and Darius Fountain and DeMichael Harris have been put onto the active roster with Ashton Doolin going on to IR. I don't think there's any big surprises there. Um, anyway, getting into the show, the Ravens. Well, let's talk about Detroit first. What did you think of the Detroit game, and what did you like?
Oh man, I was super hyped. Just Darius Leonard being back just really showed how big he is. And on the sack play he had, he's actually responsible for 2 sacks in my opinion. Taquan Lewis had a sack. His first sack came as a result of Darius Leonard running the play that he got a strip sack from. So they were just putting him over that nose guard or over that center, stunning him around to the right. And the first time it got pressure, but Matthew Stafford stepped up, and Taquan Lewis comes in for the sack. Second time, they stayed in their rush lanes. He couldn't step up, and Darius Leonard gets that strip sack. So that was huge.
Yeah.
Philip Rivers looked really good. Naheem Hines looked really good. I mean, our offense just looked great.
Is Do you think this is now Philip Rivers finding his feet behind this O line? Because
Oh
we
yeah,
got a lot of stick at the start, didn't he? Let's be honest. And even myself was questioning, was this the right pickup? But the past couple of games, this is Philip of 2, 3 years ago, what everyone wanted. Can he keep this going for the next couple of games coming up?
I sure hope so, especially this week.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I think we can, especially against the Titans, because the Titans have no pass rush right now. Clowney, I like Clowney. I thought I liked him coming out of college, but what he is best at is just being that setting that edge, being that edge guy. Like a TJ Watt, he's in no way a pass rusher. And this year is showing it. They have no pass rush. They can't do anything. If you can't pressure Philip Rivers, he's going to eat you alive. He's not going to throw interceptions against no pressure.
Um, I wanted to talk about, last time we talked, I think I jinxed it or I put a curse on it. I said we were winning games with special teams. And for once in a very, very long time, special teams didn't look like great on Sunday. We still won. Um, but I felt like we went into Detroit and they're not a pushover team as everyone expects they are, Detroit. And especially in Detroit, they like to play hard. And they
Yeah, I
did come
agree.
at us. They did come at us very fast and very intense. But we sort of went in there with an attitude of we're going to outscore you. You let Matthew Stafford, sorry, go and score 20 points. That doesn't matter because we're going to go and score 40. Was you impressed with that game plan, or was you a bit, let's hold on a minute, let's try and work this out a bit, or was you up for the, no, you score as many as you want because we're going to score more?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought our defense was really just playing that bend don't break, kind of
Mhm.
mentality, which
Yeah,
is something Eberflus is going to do. If you don't send a lot of blitzes, you're going to see that. And he's bottom five in the league in sending blitzes. So I was pretty happy just by the way we could limit them. Um, for the whole game, they ran for 29 rushing yards. I think I saw a statistic. It was either 11 rushes for 8 yards for DeAndre Swift and Adrian Peterson combined, or 8 rushes for 11 yards. I can't remember, but they could not run the ball against us whatsoever.
and then just for the people who don't know how good them running backs are as a 1-2 combo, DeAndre Swift and Andre Peterson. Can you explain maybe a little in layman's terms how good they are?
Yeah, for sure. Adrian Peterson is one of the most prolific running backs ever. He is kind of on the older age now, and he's definitely not as good as he used to be, but he's still good. He's still a talented running back. He still runs with power. He still hits holes hard. And DeAndre Swift is one of the best, if not the best, running back to come out of the draft. He's good in the pass. He's good in the run. He's quick. He's nimble. He's a good one cut back. That 1-2 punch is really, really talented. One of the best in the league easily, and especially behind their new and improved, talented offensive line. They've been really good this year.
Yeah. Talking about the offensive line, I know it's your favourite thing to break down, linemen, the big guys, the trench warfare. Although, we got a lot of pressure on Stafford, and I felt like, but to do that, we had to bring more than our usual for. The Colts are renowned and very well known for bringing four and still getting pressure. To me, it looked like Eberflus had to bring 5, 6 to try and get pressure. Do you think that was down to how good Matthew Stafford is as a quarterback? Or do you think Matt saw an opportunity at this offensive line for the Detroit?
I think it was a little bit of both. Matthew Stafford, is one of the best arm talents in this league, hands down. Flick of the wrist, he's zooming one in there, anywhere, far hash, near hash, anything. And this offensive line, it's better, but it's young, and they're not very well disciplined. And you saw whenever they're, like I said, I want to go back to them two pressures Darius Leonard got. Every time they lined him up over that center, that left side of the offensive line would never pay attention to Darius Leonard coming around. So he came around untouched twice in a row
Yeah.
on that play. So I think that was something he saw. I think he saw in other games that worked out, and so he went to it.
And that's very unlike Matt Eberflus. He's a very, like you said, bend don't break. He doesn't always like sending the rush in. But I think, was it 5 sacks we got on Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 sacks. The one forced fumble. And as a fan, and also as a critic, I was sitting there going, finally, he's sending pressure and giving this defense, just letting them off the lead. He let this defense off the lead, and they feasted, hard. Obviously good for Colt fans, not so good for the Detroit fans. But I don't know if you've seen much of Detroit's season. Personally, I haven't. But I think they're 3-3 now after that game.
3-4, I believe.
3-4. But from what I got from some friends who are Detroit fans and talking to me, they don't necessarily deserve to be 3-4, and they feel like they should be better off than where they are. Is this crazy season, as much as it has been, just down to a lack of preseason? Do you reckon that's affecting results?
Yeah, across the board, you could really tell that because certain teams that I thought would be a lot further along than they are now aren't there, and then some teams that vice versa. Especially us, like that first game, we should have won that. We shouldn't have lost to the
Yeah.
Browns. I'm going to be honest, we should be 7-0 right now, hands down. And this should be our biggest test. Like
Did you
that
see?
Browns game.
Did you see the quote from Philip Rivers? And he was just like, "God damn it, we should be 7-0 right now." And
yeah.
it was good. He seems pissed and he seemed annoyed that we weren't 7-0. And I think Colts fans have a right to be annoyed that we're not 7-0 because you look at the games we lost, the Jags was always going to be a slip up. We never really got going. It was the first game of the season, no preseason. We just didn't click. And then the Browns, we went into Cleveland and we played Cleveland's game. And when you do that, you're going to lose. When you're playing to the Cleveland mentality, the dog pound mentality, you're going to lose. You have to play above them and you have to frustrate them as a team. And what I think we did good in Detroit, we suffocated Detroit. We didn't let them breathe. We quieted the fans down. Everyone knows Detroit fans can be loud. We stopped them. Even though it wasn't a full stadium, again, I think that can have an effect. We suffered. It was the first time I watched this Colts team gone, damn, I didn't even sit up from the armchair because we was that good. I didn't even sweat because we was that good. We showed how truly good we can be. With the Ravens coming up, who are also 5-2, so they're not unbeatable this year. And with the speed of our linebackers in Darius Leonard, Okereke, Anthony Walker, and the speed of our corners, we're going to force Lamar to throw it. And if we can do that, you got to say we're looking good for a win, aren't we?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I think the real X factor here is going to be having Darius Leonard back and going to be able to pair him up with Mark Andrews because that's really his biggest target in the red zone.
Yeah.
When they get down there, that's who he wants to target every time. Since we got that, hyper athletic, really talented elite linebacker and Darius Leonard to cover him, I think he's going to be really hard pressed to score in the red zone against us.
Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson, obviously, last year was unknown, a big talking point. Everyone's like, he's a new concept of quarterbacks. If I got this right, he plays a lot of college style schemes where the little read options, and because for most of the season, he's faster than people. We said just a second ago, the speed of our linebackers. If you could just break it down for maybe people who don't really watch football that often, or people who just watch the Super Bowl and don't get how the speed of linebackers can take away Lamar's running game.
Yeah. The big thing about Lamar is it's kind of a gimmicky offense they have there. If I would say anything, I really think he deserves to play with the better offensive coordinator because sometimes it gets a little stagnant. They're figured out. But then Lamar Jackson, 4.3 40-yard dash, just a superb athlete. He can hit an open man. He really makes that team. Lamar, it's almost Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews sometimes versus the world on that offense. It's unfortunate to say that, but when he's going to play us this week, he's going to have to deal with outside linebackers and a middle linebacker that can really move. And not too often is he going to have to deal with that. Most linebacker course he's going to play are going to be 4'8", 4'7" guys that can move pretty well, but not he's never played this year 3 linebackers that can get sideline to sideline like we got. So that's really going to be an issue for him. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
And it's not just the linebacker; they're the main guys that we look at because they're the conductors of the defense and they tell people what's going to happen and they're the brains. It's Kenny Moore and Xavier Rhodes who are a fantastic cornerback pairing at the minute, and they are on fire. And it's also the D line, DeForest Buckner. Forgetting names. I forgot how to say his name, but the D line. And Lamar's not want to go wandering, and he's not going to want to really step outside the pocket with, Justin Houston, sorry. These guys really bearing down and powering through his line. He's not going to want to go wandering outside his pocket. Are we going to see Lamar having to throw? Or do you reckon we might try something different? We might let Lamar try and run and then try and get the big hits in. what are you really expecting, especially from the D-line standpoint of game plan?
Well, I hope they try to run. We got Grover Stewart. We got a really good matchup for them.
Yeah.
Number one in run defense. We're really talented up front. It really starts with Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner there. Passing wise, I mean Lamar Jackson. As bad as he can be sometimes, he does make really, really good plays, and it really starts when the play breaks down. So if we can get consistent pressure, that would really be key to beating him more than just containing these 3-4 yard runs. If we could, every time he drops back, if we can get a guy back there or, wants a drive, that would be great. That would be in our best interest. But I'm going to be honest with you. The reason I feel kind of confident about this game is because I don't know what they're going to do. You see whenever their run gets shut down, what do? Lamar, it's relied on Lamar Jackson's arm, and against the Steelers, 3 turnovers, that was costly, man. That was costly. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think in the long run, we're really going to have this one in the bag.
I wanted to pick your brain about a certain player now, and this guy. Well, first of all, he was picked by the Colts in the, I want to say, 2nd round or 3rd round, maybe. Pat McAfee introduced him when he did get selected, and that's Bobby Okereke. Now, this guy, for me, is having a standout season this season. I feel like he's starting to get his foot into the team. Obviously, we've got a lot of competition at linebacker at the minute, but that's good. All great teams have great competition, and it should never be easy for any player. Have you seen much of Bobby, and what do you like about his game where maybe, okay, it wasn't the best last season, but maybe he's starting to come into his own?
Yeah, I really like Bobby Okereke, man. It's nice that you brought that up because I was going to bring him up if you didn't. He is a super talented player. And when you think of speedy linebackers and somebody that can go sideline to sideline, he's like one of the first people that's like just popping in my mind because, this year he's easily one of the fastest linebackers sideline to sideline. And people talk about who are we going to re-sign? Are we going to re-sign Okereke, Anthony Walker? I hate that we have to choose because I think it's going to come down to that. I think we're going to have to choose between one of them. I would rather have Okereke.
Yeah.
He's better in coverage. Anthony Walker's a little bit better between the tackles, between the tackles and really in the box. But Okereke can just do everything. Need him to cover somebody, he can. That's why I'm kind of, like I said, I'm confident about Darius Leonard covering Mark Andrews, but he can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, he's having a breakout year.
Mm-hmm. And again, this stresses enough. This is where it comes from, building a franchise. And, the Colts at the minute are halfway through a rebuild, a big rebuild. No Andrew Luck. And that was the end of an era. And now we're starting to see what a great GM, a great owner, and a great coach who have a great relationship can actually start to do to a team. Darius Leonard was the worst draft pick ever, apparently. Nobody's saying that now, are they? Bobby Okereke, we just said 3rd rounder. Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, and Jacob Eason last draft were the main ones, as well as others. DeForest Buckner for a 1st round pick, which is really looking like we've got the better end of the deal at the minute. I'm sure San Fran's player, whoever they picked up, I can't remember it, will come into his own, but we got an established and very good lineman and rusher for a 1st round pick, which is hard to do nowadays. What is the importance of, because, Colt fans, we've seen bad general managers as well. I'm not going to pretend we've had it all rosy. But what is the importance of having a great general manager who trusts who gets trust from his coach and from his owner.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. It's really good having good communication between them two guys because it really results in great draft picks. And what we've seen so far is just Ballard's going to go out and get guys that are going to do well in this system that Reich's put in. And we've seen it so far. I mean, we've seen all kinds of people who, so-called experts don't think are going to succeed, and they're succeeding in this Frank Reich system. So, as much as people hate to eat their words, they've definitely had to eat their words on Bobby Okereke. A few other guys you mentioned. It's really been great seeing how well Ballard is doing in this draft, man.
We thought, we saw Michael Pittman get injured, and it was horrible to watch. We thought that was probably going to be the end of his season. It turns out the injury wasn't as bad, and he's back in the squad, and I think he's back in the squad for Sunday. Michael Pittman is tall, fast, and can catch a ball. And does he just go straight back into the squad, or does he stand out for a bit and let others like Harris and Fountain and guys, Zach Pascal, take the reins for this one?
That's a good question. He was put back into the lineup last week, and he didn't catch a ball. He didn't really contribute much, but what he was doing, he was run blocking. That's something I love to see out of receivers. I think we have a really good combo in run blockers in Zach Pascal and Michael Pittman, and especially Pascal. But he's just coming off an injury. Like I said, he didn't really catch a ball last week, but it didn't matter much. We were the Rivers Hines connection was there, so it didn't really come into play. But I think he is going to be back in the lineup. I think they're going to get him more reps this week, target him more, because last week he did look a little slow. He's just coming off that surgery, that injury. I think he'll improve this a little bit this week.
Cool. Now, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw something happen last Sunday. For the first time ever, I don't think we'll see much more of it. And I don't want it, to be honest, but Philip Rivers, a little float ball out to Hines. He works his magic in the backfield, scores a touchdown, does a great celebration, brilliant. The one thing I saw in that play was T.Y. Hilton run blocking. Granted, it wasn't an amazing block and he didn't pancake anyone, but that block was what made the touchdown available for Hines to get. Everyone knows in the league, T.Y. Hilton, he's not your big and tough guy. He's a smart player. He plays with his brain. He's route running his separation. Everyone laughed at him when he used to go down rather than try and fight for the extra yards, said he was soft, but he was preserving his career. And now it looks like the smart decision, especially with picking up an injury. We hope he comes back better. But does that just prove how much players, I don't know if you guys know what I'm saying, but over here, football, soccer, players say we want to run through a brick wall for our manager, not just because it's what we have to do, it's what we want to do. Is that the Colts mentality at the minute? We're going to run through a brick wall for Frank Reich.
Oh, yeah. I think there was a little bit of backlash on Reich at the start of the year with his play calling. And that got shut down pretty quick. And it still is,
I was one of them.
Yeah. After this game, the last couple games, he's really shined through. And that's something I've really always admired Reich for, was just, he's going to come out. He knows defenses. He does his research. He does his film watching. And he's always going to find one little wrinkle, something there. And that one play you're talking about where he comes up, he fakes the end around, stops, then runs back and catches this ball. That was just Frank Reich seeing that if you put Hines out there, this corner is going to play that end around aggressive. Mm-hmm. And once he just got back out there, he's just wide open. No one was there. So that was a really good job by him there. I love seeing that.
I'm going to admit, like I just said, I was one of the ones that said Frank Reich, his play calling is predictable, and that's what's costing us. And ever since I've said it, he's been doing option reads with Trey Burton on the 5 yard and the 5 and goal line. He's been doing fake end around runs and then throwing it out. I really didn't see that run from Hines come in. I thought when he come inside, I thought, oh, this has been stuffed. And then all of a sudden, he just floats the ball out, and I sort of like, well, where did that come from? And it's good having a manager, I feel, or a coach saying, all right, maybe this hasn't worked. Let's go back. What can we use this time? And I feel like Frank Reich's a big believer in being accountable. Every person's accountable. And what I like, that's just not players. That's him, that's Eberflus, and that's all the staff. And, you know, Frank Reich is constantly under the spotlight. As a fan, have you been impressed with Frank Reich so far? Not just this season, but the whole picture, bearing in mind the whole Andrew Luck situation. Frank Reich actually coming in last minute when Josh McDaniels stuffed us, actually turned around on the plane. You know, having to get Philip Rivers in and start afresh. How impressed have you been with Frank?
I think he's done a great job, especially with the hand he's been dealt here. You know, Frank Reich was hired here, and he was like, "All right, I got a quarterback for the future. I got Andrew Luck. You know, I'm not worried about anything. Andrew Luck retires. That's a big hit. Jacoby Brissett comes in, and with Jacoby Brissett at the helm, we start 5-2, which was like bewildering to me. I had no idea that was going to happen. I'll be honest with you, I did not see that coming. But that was a great job by him to do that. The rest of the season didn't work out well, but Jacoby Brissett getting that injury really hindered his confidence, and he just didn't look like the same player. You know, at the start of the season, he'd step up in the pocket, he'd make a few miss, he'd, you know, extend a play, and after that, he really wasn't doing that. So that was pretty bad to see. But as of now, Frank Reich, the reason I think a lot of people were kind of just downing his play calling at the start of the year was because he wanted to play vanilla. He didn't want to really, what do you call it, reveal his magic tricks, as you would say. He was just running, you know, he's lining up two tight ends, running halfback dive. He was just stretch. You know, he was just doing standard stuff, you know, trying to get to the middle of the season, see where we could be. And now we're seeing him kind of turn up the pressure, pull out the playbook a little bit, get different people involved. I'm really liking what he's doing, and hopefully he keeps it up.
Yeah, so moving on from that, I said to you on Twitter before this stream, I want to do a who's hot, who's not sort of section where you say this guy, look out for him, or this team, look out for them. High octane with your deeply over I can't even say the word, with your great IQ, football IQ, and your brain on, you know, breaking things down. Who's hot, who's not?
Start with the Colts.
Yeah.
Definitely Darius Leonard coming off a very impressive performance. Julian Blackman, easily one of the best talented defensive rookies out of the draft. He's starting to look like a star. Definitely a good replacement for Malik Hooker if he decides not to sign some kind of team friendly deal.
Mm-hmm.
Tyquan Lewis, second round pick in 2018, looking like a bust, looking like he didn't belong on the team. And I think he just got kept around really as like a, you know, what would you call it?
Like a roster guy.
Yeah, just either kick it into high gear or you're done, you know, because he wasn't doing anything last year. And now he's starting to show through 2 sacks last game, and he's looking really impressive. I like what he's doing, you know, in both aspects of the game, you know, run defense and pass rush. Quentin Nelson's playing good this year. Ryan Kelly's playing good. You know, that's nothing new. Mark Glowinski's having a absolute 180 this year. Last year he didn't look that good. Now he's looked like he's got into shape. Like he's really he's fit to play now. Last year he just didn't look like it. He just looked sluggish. Braden Smith, he's kind of cold right now. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I love Braden Smith. If you want a little reference on Braden Smith, the only reason I knew who he was is because his senior year of high school, he could bench press about 515 pounds 4 times. He's a high schooler, man. I saw that and I was like, dude, what are they feeding you? Yeah, he's. I think he's a guard in my opinion. Like I don't think he's a tackle.
Yeah.
He played guard at Auburn, and he transitioned last year. He did really well. And he's still pretty good, but I feel like if we shifted him down to right guard, if Mark Galinsky doesn't come back or something, if he wants a huge contract, he would be a road grader, man. Easily, he'd be one of the best right guards in the league. But for now, we'll leave him at tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Costanzo, he hasn't had the best year this year, but still yet it's not like he's a bad starter in any way, and he's better than anyone we have as a backup, so that's not a big issue. T.Y. Hilton, I love T.Y. I don't know what's going on with him. He's injured now. Hopefully when he comes back, it's just a little hamstring issue. He's better than ever, but we'll have to see. So far this season, he's not performed. Michael Pittman, he's done all right, for the targets he's had. Our teams, everyone on our teams really played well. We're 5-2. The record shows it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to try and use technology. So this might go wrong, this might go right. But hopefully, if it goes right, I should be able to bring up let me just think. I should be able to bring up the Colts' next fixtures. Let me just see which one's best here. Probably that one's best. Right. All I'm going to do is, we're just going to talk about the next couple of games. So the Ravens, we want Lamar to run it because we have a fantastic run. But if Lamar starts throwing it, are you worried? Do you think we'll come out with a dub?
Yeah. Xavier Rhodes, Kenny Moore, Rocky Sin, Julian Blackman. I don't think they have the receiving core to really hang with us. That's a real issue there because, like I said, sometimes it's Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews versus the world. But what happens when you got Darius Leonard, 4-5 speed linebackers, an incredibly fast defensive front with an emerging one-tech star, an already star established DeForest Buckner. Your receivers got to play against the guy that's 0 for 13 right now on third down targets. Xavier Rhodes hasn't allowed a single catch on third down this year, which is super impressive. I mean, like I said, defense wins championships, in my opinion. You look at Tom Brady and the Patriots. Tom Brady has 6 Super Bowls, but he never played on a team he never played in a Super Bowl unless his team had a top 10 defense. 3 times they were the number 1 defense, a 4, 5, and an 8. So, I mean, if that tells you anything, Tom Brady's a great quarterback, one of the greatest to ever live. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to discredit him, but still yet
Deflategate.
Yeah. But he always had that to back him up, and now we're seeing Phillip Rivers play a little bit better. If he can continue this into this game, if he can throw 3 touchdowns, 250, 300 yards this game, I think we win this game easily.
Cool. Moving on to the game after that, and it's a massive, couldn't be any bigger game. It's the Titans. For those who don't know or are not up to date with the Colts and the Titans battle at the minute, we're both top of the division, 5-2. If we beat Ravens and Titans lose, we go top. But then it's the massive division battle, Titans, Colts. Do you see a Colts victory there? It's a Friday night game.
Yeah, again, if we're talking matchups, I think we do win this one. And the reason is because They're missing Adoree Jackson. They're missing Bird at safety, and them two are two of the best secondary players in the league. And they got Malcolm Butler. They did have Jonathan Joseph starting, who was who's known as one of the better corners to ever, or not to ever play, but in recent history, he's one of the better corners. And they just recently released him. They're like, man, you're just not playing well. And he was 36. I was hoping he stayed so Philip Rivers can play against him, but they released him. But they still got Malcolm Butler, who's definitely past his prime. He's 30 now. It's interesting to see. Like I said, if Philip Rivers, it all comes down to Philip Rivers, and that's been the narrative since the start of the season. Really, I feel like it's like, oh, if Philip Rivers can play, Colts are going to go far. But if Philip Rivers plays poorly, then can we pull it out? And I think we still could. Philip Rivers could. I could say not a total meltdown. But he could play poorly, and we still win this because we've seen Ryan Tannehill not play great this year. Derrick Henry is going to have to run through the number one rush defense in the league. It's going to be difficult for him either way.
Cool. Moving on to, I think, which is going to be our hardest game this season. Even though we've lost a couple, we should have won them. But we're moving on to Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And talk about firing a guy up, drafting a quarterback high, and then Aaron Rodgers turning around saying, this is my place. I'm number one. This is my team, and you're not taking it from me. Do you think Aaron Rodgers has just got that too much for the Colts, or do you think a bit of a surprise upset there?
First of all, I think their GM needs to be fired. I have no idea why he drafted Love. That's still befuddling to me, man. I have no idea.
They did it with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and it worked out all right. Or is this completely different?
Nah, I have to say this one's a little bit different. Aaron Rodgers is like easily one of the greatest to ever live. And when you're talking about arm talent, mobility, play recognition, awareness, I mean, he's got every bit of it. That's Aaron Rodgers. He's like, who could I compare him to? What we're seeing right now is out of Joe Burrow is what I would compare to Aaron Rodgers. Somebody that, drops back from an early age, can read a zone, can read a man coverage. They can tell what people are doing. They're doing their homework. And the fact that their GM said, well, we're just going to draft a quarterback here instead of getting you a receiver. That just didn't make sense to me, man. I was just like, dude, the Packer Nation must be so pissed. They must be calling for his head right now. Something. But if we're talking in terms of how that game is going to go, again, like they got Devontae Adams, but who else do they got? It's Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams versus our whole defense. We're still one of the best defenses. It's just going to have to be two people versus one of the most talented defenses in the league, and they lost one of their best offensive tackles, Bakhtiari. We're going to have Kamoko Toure back by then. This is going to be a difficult game for them either way, just like us. But I still think, like, maybe I'm a homer, whatever they call it. Maybe I'm a little biased, but our defense just matches up so well with literally every team in the league. Even the Buccaneers. Like, it's hard for me to call it against them just by what they've showed me this year.
Yeah, cool. That's all we're going to look at for games coming up. But I think it's worth talking about the defense and maybe breaking it down a bit for people who are not so clued up on NFL or are new to an NFL team. Why, apart from athleticism, speed, and just ability, why is this defense special, Octane? Why does it stand out? Why are teams scared to play against the Colts defense?
Strictly, I would just say ferocity, man. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone on this team just fights. And it goes from the defensive line to the linebacker core to the secondary. It's like every position we have will come up and hit you. Xavier Rhodes will hit you. Rocky Sim will definitely hit you. We've seen that already against the Bengals. DeForest Buckner will hit you. Danico Autry will hit you. Like it's just everyone, and it starts at that front seven. Really, is where people are having nightmares. Especially the Lions. I expected us to do really good against the run. I expected us to do pretty decent against the pass. Matthew Stafford does this thing over there in Detroit, but never in a million years, did I think that DeAndre Swift and Adrian Peterson were combining for 11 yards. I mean, that's ridiculous, man.
I will say one place, and it got to me a little bit, and it just bugged me. And this is really picking it down to just the finest little details and maybe being too overcritical. But if I wasn't critical, I wouldn't be here talking about it now. Was slant passes. For anyone who doesn't know what a slant pass mean, I know you will, High Octane, but it's just a little couple steps up the field and then diagonal across. It's just a little sort of in route, and it's one of the easiest, most simple plays you can do. We seem to be happy to give it up, and I know it's the whole bend don't break, but better teams, no offense on Matthew Stafford because he's great, but teams, more equipped teams, let's say, will use that to their advantage. Did you see that just as a bit of a game plan for last Sunday, or is it a bit of a chink in the armor?
Yeah, a slant is a great play call really at any time of the game because it's designed to beat any coverage. That's really the great part about a slant. And what makes a team be able to run a slant consistently is really quarterback receiver duo. And more of the quarterback, and it's a quarterback being able to fit a ball into a tight spot, especially against the zone. Man coverage, not as much because the slant's really designed to outright beat man coverage. But whenever you got a Matthew Stafford at quarterback, the dude throws it's like the equivalent of throwing like 100-mile-per-hour fastball in baseball. Like, when he gets that big drop and he just lets it fly, it's difficult to stop that. It don't matter who you have at linebacker. It don't matter who you have at corner. It's just you could have Stephon Gilmore and Jalen Ramsey as both your corners, and they're going to lose a slant route, one of them at least one time in the game.
I want to talk about as well. I think it was by the end of the third quarter last Sunday, the game was dead. It was a dead game. We sort of let him get back in with a nothing touchdown, but then we took the game away and it was over. And I know the UK Colts fan group on our little WhatsApp group, was screaming, take Philip out, put Jacoby in, just let him manage the game, let him get a few reps, get the secondary in, get the backups in, basically, because the game was done. Was you a bit perplexed also as why Jacoby wasn't in for the last little bit, the last 5-10 minutes? Or was you happy to see Philip Rivers getting them reps?
Hey, Philip earned them, so I got to give them to him. But I can still understand that. Getting Philip out of there and making sure you don't get injured. But still, yet it's the NFL. Philip Rivers is near the end of his career, and I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he didn't appreciate getting benched against the Jets. Even though he didn't play bad and we were running the ball, but we were still up 37. So they're like, all right, we got to get you out. But still, yet I'm not. I don't care. At a different level, at a high school, college level, yeah, I'm going to take my players out if you're up because it means more. But for Philip Rivers, like he is, like I've said before, he's like one of the ultimate competitors in the NFL. He wants to win and he wants to play. So I don't think, unless he says pull me out, I don't think you bench Rivers.
Okay. I don't know if you've seen little whispers, and they are just little whispers going around. But Saka is apparently looking for a new team, and his connection with Frank Reich, a lot of people are starting to say it looked like he could land at the Colts. For people who don't know, Zach, tight end currently for the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, Frank's worked with him. Are we going to snap him up, or is it just agent talk? And also, if we did get him, are we just going to end up running 52 tight ends a weekend? Because it seems like we have plenty of depth for the tight end position.
It's hard to say on that. I would like to have Zach Ertz. I can say that.
Yeah.
There's a few other people I like to have, but right now, with the way Doyle's playing, we gave him his contract. He deserved it. You know, our surprising guy, Mo Alley-Cox, he's playing great. Burton's that like X factor. You throw him in there, played quarterback in college.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we just got a lot of talent there. So it's hard to say. I would like to have Zach Ertz. Like I said, that guy's easily been one of the best tight ends in the league for like the past 7-8 years. But it would just really depend to me how much his contract is, how much he wants to be paid.
Okay. The last little thing I want to touch on before, we had openly is going into next year's draft. And I know everyone says it's miles away, forget about it, one game at a time. But great coaches are always looking ahead at the next draft and the next draft. It looks like we've got our stuff together and we're not going to be one of the worst teams. So we're probably or definitely not going to get Trevor Lawrence. He's looking like he's going to go number one if he doesn't choose to stay in college. But at the minute, we've got a lot of depth. How much draft capital, and for those who don't understand what that is, draft capital is not just having draft picks, but also tradable players that you can draft for picks. So last season, we drafted a pick for DeForest Buckner. How much draft capital have the Colts got, and what do you really see us aiming for in next year's draft?
It would all depend. There's depending on where we land and depending on whoever's there. But you know, if I'm going to be realistic here, I would take a tackle. I love Anthony Costanzo. I know he signed a 2-year deal, but he just don't look like he has it right now. And next year, I don't know how much better he's going to do. He would really have to, get in the weight room, something. But I think Father Time's really got a hold of him, not just being poor conditioned. Maybe a linebacker. There's a guy out of Texas. I really like it. His name is Joseph. What is his name? I can't remember his name right now. His last name's hard to pronounce anyways. I probably pronounce it wrong, but he's really talented too. He's a big guy, 6'4", 250. And if we have to choose between Bobby Okereke, Anthony Walker, it'd be nice to bring him in and have another guy just go on that in that great linebacking core. But other than that, I would be cool with picking up a defensive lineman. Maybe like a Christian Barmore. He's like 315. That's if our great one tech, Grover Stewart doesn't want to re-sign a deal or wants too much. Maybe wants 10, 11 million. I'd be cool with picking him up too.
Do you see Trevor Lawrence deferring the draft this year? Or do you see him going to the Jets?
I don't know, man. I don't know what that guy's going to do. At this point, it's a toss-up. Like, I could understand why he would defer. As a guy like that, what do you think? Like, oh, I'm going to go to the Jets and probably get beat up on for 4 years by the Patriots and the Bills. And then I'm going to re-sign somewhere else. Like, it's hard, man. But I don't think Trevor Lawrence is like one of them guys. I don't think he's somebody that'll do that. So I think he does end up getting signed by the Jets, and I hope for the best. I'm not. I might be rooting for the Jets a couple of games, just to see Trevor Lawrence do good. But
It's one of those things. I think if you are the number one pick or you are in the conversation for number one pick, you have to have that mentality of I don't care who drafts me because I know that team's going to be bad because the number one pick team, unless they've magically got the number one pick in a trade, are a bad team. And I think Trevor has to look at it and think, okay, yeah, it's going to be a bit nasty and I'm going to get hit a few times, but I can try and drag this team up and out of the hole. Do you think that is the mentality you've got to have going into that conversation if you're Trevor Lawrence?
I guess so. He's probably going to have a new coach. Don't know who they're going to get there.
Like he has a new coach. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure Adam is a lovely guy, and I never chat bad about anyone who couldn't defend themselves, but he's just not head coach material, is he?
nah, not at all.
Not at all.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
He Adam Gase, in my opinion, isn't the worst coach in the league. He's 31st to me. Mike McCarthy is trash. That dude should not play anywhere. I don't care, dude. He is the sole reason Aaron Rodgers does not have 3 or 4 rings. I will say that right now. As you can see, he went to the Cowboys, man. It's like every player in there is like, this dude sucks. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't game plan, So as bad as Adam Gase is, I feel like I always got to down Mike McCarthy because he got a free job and millions of dollars for free just because Aaron Rodgers carried his team to a Super Bowl.
Cool. That's all I had in my mind, what I wanted to bring up. Was there anything you wanted to add to the show today?
Not in particular. I could probably think of something, though.
Yeah.
Some of the matchups we're going to be seeing for the Colts-Ravens game, I kind of want to talk about that.
Yeah, let's go.
First matchup, I think we're going to see it again. We saw it already once, week 2 against the Vikings. Yannick Ngakoue versus Anthony Costanzo.
Okay.
That matchup it wasn't heavily favored to Ngakoue, but it was definitely favored towards him. A lot of the plays you saw, when it was one-on-one pass protection, I think he won 3 or 4 reps. We really schemed away from him, which was a really good job by Frank Reich. I really like that because he didn't leave Anthony Costanzo on an island against them one-on-one very much. But the plays you did, I think it was 4-2. I think Yannick Ngakoue beat him 4 times and Costanzo won twice. So that, the only thing that really makes me feel a little bit better about this matchup is the fact that Costanzo has seen film on him this year and he's played against him, so he knows what he's going to do one-on-one, so he can play a little bit better. What do you think about that? Have you seen Yannick Ngakoue play any recently?
Apart from that game against the Vikings, no. I don't say what I see mostly outside of the Colts is mostly red zone stuff, mostly highlight reels and stuff like that. And although I do watch other games, I wouldn't say I watch other games with a brain view on. I watch other games to enjoy them. But yeah, you might be able to explain this as a former lineman and a former player, but there's, like you said, time's got the better of Anthony. Unfortunately, it happens to all players. But do you know in yourself, like, man, I'm just not the quality I used to be? And is that a mental place? Is that not a nice place to be mentally?
That's a real difficult question. Anthony Costanzo's been a 10-year starter, so I would hope he would, think a little bit better than himself in that scenario, just because Colts Nation love him. There's thousands and thousands of people on Twitter like, we love you, Costanzo, keep playing, So So I would hope he doesn't think too bad of himself, because either way, he's always going to be like one of my favorite players, offensive lineman for the Colts. But still, yet to that question, it's really hard to think about that, because he knows he's not as talented as he used to be, or Father Time's got a little bit of hold of him, and he knows he's going to have to somehow amp up his play a little bit, especially coming off that rib injury. He's going to have to show us something, especially against Ngakoue, if he really wants to stay around.
Yeah. Any more matchup catching your eye?
Oh, Calais Campbell. You might know Calais from being on the same team that Ngakoue was. Calais was on Jacksonville. Yeah. He was on Jacksonville for years, and he's been playing really well this year. He actually had 3 sacks against Washington. I mean, he's playing great, but he's going to be playing against Quentin Nelson all game, and Mark Glowinski. So that's going to be some great matchups there. Like I already said, Mark Andrews, Darius Leonard, but another big one is Marcus Hollywood Brown versus Xavier Rhodes. That's going to be a huge one, especially when Lamar Jackson gets in them pickles, because he's going to have to avoid a few sacks this week. I can already tell. We saw Sam Darnold, man. Sam Darnold was like a buttered up pig or something, man. He just every time we got to him, dude, he just got away. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how we contain Lamar Jackson this week.
You touched on a team there, and I don't want to go too much longer because I don't want to hold you here forever, even though we could probably talk Colts football forever. But Washington, the Washington football team, as they're now called. I'm a massive fan of Dwayne Haskins, only because I've watched a lot of Ohio State. They just happened to be on the TV when I watched college football for the first time, so I tend to watch Ohio State more than any other college team. So I'm a big fan of Dwayne. But how nice and how great was it to see Alex Smith come back and play his first game of football? And just for the viewers and the people who don't know why it was so nice to see, there was fears this guy would never walk again after a terrible accident, injury, where I can't remember exactly what he did to his leg, but his leg was destroyed. He's managed to build it back up, and not only just build it back up to walking level, but he's actually playing at the top level of American football for Washington. How nice was it to see?
Oh yeah, that's definitely a feel-good story. They were talking about amputation of his leg, man. Like amputation, that was insane. I couldn't believe he was back in there, but kudos for Washington for giving him a shot. It also wasn't very good that he got sacked like 7 or 8 times that week, but
that's still nice to say.
It happens, I guess, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really happy to see him get in there and get some reps.
Yeah, good. Have you got anything else to add on the last night?
No, I think that's it, man. I'm just hyped for this game this Sunday.
Hyped for this game this Sunday. That is the Colts versus the Ravens. Phillip Rivers versus Lamar Jackson. Both teams 5-2. It's going to be a good one. Thanks to everyone for watching. Again, shout out Northern Summit Clothing. And again, I must stress this enough. This isn't a paid sponsor. I generally enjoy this guy's clothes. And it's not just t-shirts, it's caps, it's urban outdoor wear. Go and check him out on Facebook. Also, the guy on my screen with me, High Octane, who comes on this show, is now part of this show. He's as much of the program as I am. Breaks down everything on Twitter. High Octane, thanks for coming on. Go and check him out, guys. See you all later.